Socrates, a man with no writings of his own, no school he formally established. Yet his name lives on more than most kings or conquerors. In fact, the philosopher John Stuart Mill once said, Socrates was not only the wisest of men, but the most just and virtuous. He was, in a sense, the Jesus Christ of philosophy. Today, we explore why Socrates is often seen as the Jesus of philosophy, not as a savior, but as a man who changed everything. Socrates didn't write a single word. What we know of him comes from the dialogues of his student, Plato, and even those are difficult to interpret. Were they historical accounts, or philosophical accounts, or maybe a mixture of both? For example, the dialogues that Plato records of Socrates include conversations which we can derive the personality of Socrates, or what Socrates believed, or what he would act like. For example, in this dialogue, Meno says, I feel somehow that I like what you are saying. Socrates replies, and I, Meno, like what I am saying. Some things I have said of which I am not altogether confident, but that we shall be better and braver, and less helpless if we think that we ought to inquire, than we should have been if we indulged in the idle fantasy that there was no knowing and no use in seeking to know what we do not know. That is a theme upon which I am ready to fight, in word and deed, to the utmost of my power. And this is also where we get the most famous quote in philosophical history by Socrates, which says, I am the wisest of all the Greeks, because that which I do not know, I do not think I know either. Despite the mystery, his impact is undeniable. After his death, entire schools of thought opened in his name. The Cynics, the Stoics, the Skeptics. They all traced their philosophical lineage back to him. And while Plato made his teacher immortal through dialogue, Socrates defined what it means to be a philosopher. In fact, he gave us the term's meaning. Philo, meaning love, Sophia, meaning wisdom. A philosopher, then, was the lover of wisdom. But Socrates didn't love wisdom as an abstract concept. He loved the pursuit of it. He didn't claim to have the answers. It was actually quite the opposite. At the heart of Socratic philosophy is one strange truth. The wisest man is the one who knows that he knows nothing. This wasn't false humility. Socrates would walk around Athens, questioning politicians, poets, craftsmen, and anyone who claimed to know anything. But as he peeled back their certainty, he exposed something terrifying. They had no true idea why they believed what they believed. This method became known as Socratic questioning, a series of inquiries that aim not to gather knowledge, but to interrogate it. For example, he would ask, why do you believe that? Or, why do you believe that this car is red? How do you know it's true? Or, how do you know that what she told you was true? Or, what follows from that? Or, well, because of this, what's the conclusion? Socrates didn't directly seek information, he sought understanding. And more radically, he connected the search not just to logic, but to morality. To Socrates, the moral life wasn't about memorizing rules. It was about clarity of mind. When someone acts wrong, he believed, it's not because they wanted to be bad, but because they didn't know what good truly was. For Socrates, ignorance wasn't just a lack of knowledge, it was a moral flaw. That's why Socratic ignorance wasn't shameful, it was honest. To admit, I do not know, was the first step toward being better, not just thinking better. This is why Socrates still matters. He taught us that philosophy isn't about complex terms. It's about examining ourselves, our choices, our values, our assumptions. He turned knowledge into something active, something actively lived, a life of virtue. Socrates is more than a figure in history. He is the paradigm of the philosopher. He didn't just speak about virtue, he died for it, condemned for corrupting the youth and not believing in the city's gods. Socrates drank the hemlock calmly, choosing death over abandoning the life of inquiry. No wonder people call him the Jesus of philosophy. Both were misunderstood by the masses, both were condemned by the state, and both transformed how the world thinks. Not by giving answers, but by asking the right questions. So the next time you say, I don't know, don't be ashamed. That's how Socrates started, and that's where philosophy truly begins.